Hello, this is Chetan and welcome to CSS Dev and UX. Today we'll be talking about some cool CSS properties related to scrolling, specifically scroll behavior, scroll padding and scroll snap. So let's get into it. So as you can see here, I have a simple web layout with the header on top, some navigation links. On the left hand side, we have some content sections, and on the right hand side, we have table of contents. What we want to do is each link item in the table of content should correspond to each content pieces on the left. So if I click on DC Universe, it should navigate or scroll to DC Universe. Now this is possible out of the box in HTML, where you can just href the ID of this H heading tag, and it takes you to that ID, and the URL also changes. But many a times all of us want the scrolling behavior to be smooth. It should not be snappy where visitors don't understand what is happening. So we used to rely on jQuery and JavaScript to do that, like window.scrollTop and other such things, to make sure that the scroll behavior is smooth and we have some animation while scrolling. But there's an easier way to do it without relying on JavaScript and jQuery. So we'll see how that happens. So it's basically just two lines, and we're gonna apply it on the HTML tag, which is like the root tag for our document. It's called scroll behavior, and the value should be smooth. So now if we do that, and let's say I want to click on X-Men, so you see instead of snapping it, you can see a smooth animation. Now you don't have control to set the speed of the animation, but whatever is delivered out of the box is pretty smooth enough for people to use. But now we have one more problem. So our header navigation is fixed on top, and our content is just behind it. So it is scrolling to the content, but the top part of the content is hidden by the header that we have, this yellow header that we have. So how do you fix that? So again, a very simple CSS property called scroll padding, and now we can set the padding. So let's say I want to set the padding to 100 pixels. So whenever it scrolls to a particular section, there'll always be a padding of 100 pixels. So let's see if it works. So as you can see, it works. Instead of this going all the way to the top of the page, it stops at 100 pixels from the top of the page. So if I reduce it to, let's 50 pixels, and see what happens. So it's gonna end up like in midway here. So I feel 90 pixels is the right value. Yeah, and as you can see, it works fine. So this is just two lines of code replacing the entire jQuery JavaScript snippet that we'd be using, and this saves us a lot of time and pain to go into the jQuery part and do this. So this is pretty valuable. So now let's see the support for this. So scroll behavior and scroll padding. So if I go to can I use, and I see scroll behavior, it has pretty good support except for Safari right now at the time of recording, where it shows it is flagged. So it probably is under a development feature of Safari. So I'm hoping the support should come to Safari soon. Besides that, everything else works fine, and yeah, so this does the job. Okay, so moving on to the next scrolling CSS property that I want to demo today. It's called scroll snap. So as you can see here, I have this grid of I have a box here, and it has items inside the boxes, and I have around 15 items. So as you can see, you can scroll left and right, horizontal and vertical. So what we want is, right now I can just stop anywhere I want to. I can stop midway, I can stop midway vertically, midway horizontally. So imagine like a carousel or like a horizontal card list that we see mostly on mobile apps, and I want every time the person scrolls, it should scroll to the next start of the next item instead of stopping midway. So there is CSS properties that lets you do that, and it's called scroll snap. Now the property is supposed to be applied both on the parent and the child, and we'll go through how it works. So I'll just uncomment these lines that you see here. So on the parent, I want to say scroll snap type. The parent is basically this outer box, which has a width of 100%, height of 400 pixels, and inside of which I have divs, which are these individual boxes: item 1, item 2, item 3. And each div, I've added a display grid with 5 columns and 3 rows of 380 pixels and 340 pixels in height, 380 pixels in width. And I've given an overflow of auto, so which is why you see the scroll that is possible within the box. Now I want the scroll snap to be snap type to be both valid in both horizontal and vertical scrolling. So I can just enter scroll snap type both and mandatory. The other value available here is proximity, and we'll see the difference in a minute. So when I say both and I save it, so right now nothing happens, nothing has changed. I can scroll midway and stop. Same goes for horizontal and vertical scrolling. So what is missing is that I want to apply a property to the child item as well. So each item within the parent needs to have a property of scroll snap align. So here we can add the values at start, center, and end. So let's begin with start. So when I did start and I try to scroll now from item 1 to item 2 horizontally, I can just do a little bit of scrolling and it will complete the rest of the scrolling till it reaches item 2. The same for item 3. Now if I try to scroll vertically, so it reaches item 8. So it's till it has space. If it runs out of space, it will just follow the default behavior. But if it has space, it will snap to the next available item, to the start of the next available item, because that's what we defined. But what if I don't want to snap it to the start, I want to snap it to the center? So I can just change the value from start to center, and now if I try to scroll, it stops at the center of the item. There may be reasons why you want to do that. If you want the focus to be on the center item where there are parts of the before and after items are visible, you can do that. So that's where it makes sense. So if you can see vertically, it's not making sense here. Maybe if I try to do end here, then it would be better demo for the vertical scrolling. So if I enter the scroll snap align as end and try to run it, you'll see if I try to scroll vertically, it snaps to the end of the next available item vertically. So instead of this item 6 starting here, it starts at the end of the item. So let me go back and change the value to start. Now if I scroll vertically, now this item 6 begins at the top, not ends at the bottom. So that's how you can play around with start, end, and center. Okay, moving on. So what is the difference between mandatory and the second value that I said, proximity? So proximity is a loose value where mandatory is a strict value. So if I enter proximity, it won't necessarily scroll to the next available item. So only if the scroll position is closer to the next available item will it scroll to the next available item. If the scroll position is like just 20% from the beginning item, it will snap back to the first item. It won't go to the second item, right? And if I do mandatory, there's a typo here. If I do mandatory, and now if I scroll, it scrolls to the next available item. So proximity is loose. It will either stop at whatever scroll position was available, or it will go to the next available item if it is at the close proximity of the next item. Okay, so on the parent we have both here. You can have just X, which will be horizontal scrolling, Y, which would be vertical scrolling, and both will be both horizontal and vertical, mandatory and proximity. And then on the child, you can have the scroll snap align property to be start, center, or end, depending on what your requirement is. So pretty cool. So there's one more additional thing that you can use here. What if you want to add some padding on the left? Maybe you have some fixed item, like how we have fixed header navigation on top. Suppose within the box you have a fixed item on the left or on the top. You can optionally add scroll padding, and let's say I want the scroll padding to be 40 pixels. So now if I try to scroll within the box, it works the same way, except it leaves 40 pixels from the left, because right now I did a horizontal scrolling. If I try to do vertical scrolling, it will leave 40 pixels from the top. The support for scroll snap type is better than scroll behavior. As you can see here, at the time of recording, even the older version of Internet Explorer, had support for scroll snap type. And yeah, so scroll snap type is still can be used without worrying too much. In case you're using scroll behavior, you need to check for browser support and add backups if required, fallbacks if required. So yeah, this was it. Thank you. If you like this video, please hit like and share. And if you like if you want such similar videos on CSS trickery, you can subscribe to the channel and watch out for more videos. Thank you.